someone just insulted you in front of everyone. Your chest is tight, your face is hot, every part of your body is screaming at you to defend yourself, to fire back, to win. In that exact second, your life is not being tested by the person in front of you. It is being tested by the force rising inside you. The insult is only the surface. The real battle is not between your mouth and their words. The real battle is between your awareness and your impulse. Most people never see this. They believe provocation is an attack that must be answered. They believe silence will make them look weak. They believe the fastest reaction is the strongest reaction. So they speak from heat. They move from pride. They let the wound choose the next sentence. And for a few seconds, it may feel powerful. It may feel like victory. But look deeper. If another person can change your breathing, change your face, change your voice, change your posture, and pull your mind out of balance with one careless sentence, then who is holding the power in that moment? Provocation is not always a search for truth. Often, it is a hook. It is thrown toward the part of you that still needs to be seen. Defended, approved, respected, feared. The one who provokes may not even understand their own pattern. They may speak from insecurity. They may speak from jealousy. They may speak from pain that has never been trained. They may speak because disorder inside them is looking for disorder inside you. But the purpose is the same. They want movement. They want proof that your center can be touched. They want to see the calm surface crack. They want to know that their noise can enter your inner room. This is why the first discipline is not to answer. The first discipline is to notice. Notice the heat in the face. Notice the tightening in the chest. Notice the story forming in the mind. Notice the old wound that says, you must prove yourself now. Do not obey it immediately. Do not worship the first reaction. The first reaction is often the body protecting an old identity. It is not always wisdom. It is not always strength. Sometimes it is only fear wearing armor. A trained person does not rush to strike. A trained person returns to the breath. One breath can save you from 1,000 regrets. One breath can create a small space between what happened and who you choose to become next. In that space, you begin to see clearly. The insult is not a command. The insult is not a chain. The insult is not your master. It is only an invitation to step lower, an invitation to abandon your center, an invitation to trade your inner peace for a cheap moment of emotional release. And you do not have to accept. You can stand there and feel the fire without becoming fire. You can hear the words without letting them build a home in your mind. You can look at the person and understand that their lack of control does not require your lack of control. This is the beginning of real strength. Not the strength that needs to dominate the room. Not the strength that needs to win every exchange. Not the strength that must be loud to feel alive. Real strength is quiet because it is rooted. Real strength does not leak energy into every provocation. Real strength knows that attention is life force. And life force should not be wasted on every hand that tries to pull it away. Every day, life will send people who test your training, a disrespectful comment, a family member who knows exactly where to press, a coworker who speaks with a hidden blade. These are not interruptions on the path. They are the path. They are the training ground. They show you where the mind is still reactive. They show you where the ego still wants applause. They show you where pain still wants to speak louder than wisdom. When you see provocation this way, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I hurt them back? You start asking, how do I remain whole? You stop asking, how do I win this argument? You start asking, how do I not lose myself? This is the deeper victory. The world may insult you. The world may misunderstand you. The world may throw noise at your name. But no one can take your center unless you hand it over. The trap is not the insult. The trap is the belief that you must leave yourself in order to defend yourself. And when you can see the trap clearly, breathe through the heat and stay rooted where others expect you to explode. You have already won the battle that matters most. When you can see the trap and refuse to step into it, the next movement is not silence alone. The next movement is clarity. Because if you only suppress your reaction without understanding what is happening inside you, the fire will still burn in the hidden rooms of the mind. You may look calm on the outside, but inside, the ego is still sharpening its blade. It is still preparing arguments. It is still replaying the insult. It is still asking, how dare they speak to me like that? This is why the deeper training is not only to avoid reaction. The deeper training is to return to truth. Most people do not return to truth when they feel attacked. They return to identity. They return to the image they want others to respect. They return to the version of themselves that must be right, must be admired, must never be questioned, must never be seen as weak. And once the ego takes the seat of command, every word from another person becomes a threat. A correction feels like humiliation. A disagreement feels like disrespect. A question feels like an attack. A small criticism becomes a wound that demands blood. But truth does not behave like ego. Truth does not panic. Truth does not need applause. Truth does not become smaller because someone speaks harshly. Truth simply waits to be seen. So when someone insults you, the trained mind does not rush to ask, how do I protect my pride? The trained mind asks, is there truth in this? This one question is like cold water poured onto the heat of the body. It brings you back from the battlefield of pride into the temple of awareness. If there is truth in what was said, even if it was delivered with cruelty, you can take the lesson without taking the poison. If someone says you were careless, and you were careless, then the insult becomes a mirror. If someone says you were arrogant, and some part of you knows arrogance was present, then the pain becomes instruction. If someone says you failed, and failure is real, then there is no need to collapse. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is a teacher that speaks without decoration. But if there is no truth in the words, if they are only jealousy, projection, bitterness, or noise, then why carry them? Why let a false sentence become a stone in your chest? Why spend your life force defending yourself against something that does not belong to you? The ego wants to fight every shadow. Awareness only turns toward what is real. This is the difference between a reactive person and a trained person. The reactive person hears criticism and immediately becomes a lawyer for the self. They explain, they justify, they attack, they gather evidence, they build a courtroom in the mind and spend all their energy proving they should not have been touched. But the trained person does not need a courtroom for every careless word. The trained person listens, breathes, separates the message from the poison, and asks quietly, what here can help me become more honest? This is not weakness. This is precision. A person who cannot receive truth is easy to control because any challenge can set them on fire. A person who can receive truth is difficult to manipulate because they are not defending an illusion. They are refining a life. Understand this deeply. Your ego wants protection, but your growth wants exposure. Your ego wants comfort, but your awakening wants honesty. Your ego wants to be seen as complete, but your deeper self knows that every rough moment can reveal where training is still needed. When you choose truth over ego, you stop treating discomfort as danger. You begin to treat it as a doorway. You begin to understand that not every painful word is an enemy. Some painful words are medicine with a bitter taste. Some are mirrors held by unclean hands. Some are nothing at all. Only dust moving through the air. Your work is to know the difference. This is why returning to truth gives you power. You no longer need to win every exchange. You no longer need to correct every misunderstanding. You no longer need to make every person see you clearly. You become more interested in being clear within yourself. And when a person becomes clear within themselves, they stop begging the world to confirm their worth. The next time someone provokes you, do not run first to pride. Return to the body. Return to the breath. Return to the simple question, is there truth here? If yes, bow inwardly to the lesson and grow. If no, let it fall before it enters you. In this way, the insult loses its power, the ego loses its throne, and truth becomes the ground beneath your feet. When truth becomes the ground beneath your feet, silence no longer feels like defeat. It becomes a place of command. Most people misunderstand silence because they only know two forms of it: the silence of fear and the silence of suppression. The silence of fear is when you say nothing because you are afraid to speak. The silence of suppression is when you say nothing while anger poisons you from the inside. Neither of these is real strength. Real silence is different. Real silence is awake. Real silence is chosen. Real silence is the moment you feel the impulse to react, but you do not let the impulse become your master. It is not the absence of power. It is power that has not been wasted. Look at the body of a trained fighter. They do not throw every strike because they can. They do not move every time someone tries to pull them. They do not spend energy to prove they are dangerous. Their stillness is not empty. Their stillness is loaded with awareness. In the same way, a trained mind does not answer every insult. Not because it has no answer, but because it has learned the cost of answering from the wrong place. A sentence born from anger may feel sharp, but often it cuts the hand that holds it. A reaction born from wounded pride may silence the room, but it leaves noise inside the heart. This is why silence must be understood as discipline, not avoidance. When someone provokes you and you remain silent with awareness, you are doing something very difficult. You are holding fire without throwing it. You are feeling pressure without leaking energy. You are letting the body burn for a moment without giving the burn a voice. This is training. This is inner martial art. This is the practice of keeping your center while another person tries to pull you into their chaos. The untrained person believes every gap must be filled. They fear the pause. They fear the space after an insult. They think, if I do not answer now, they will think I am weak. But this fear is the ego begging for a witness. It wants the room to see that it can defend itself. It wants applause. It wants the satisfaction of a sharp return. But the deeper self does not need to perform strength. The deeper self is interested in remaining whole. There is a kind of silence that makes the provocateur uncomfortable because it gives them nothing to push against. They came expecting a reaction. They came expecting heat. They came expecting you to step into the same low frequency. But when you breathe and remain still, their words begin to stand alone. Their aggression has no partner. Their poison has nowhere to land. Their noise returns to them. This is why a calm pause can reveal more than 1,000 arguments. It shows the difference between the one who is ruled by impulse and the one who is rooted in awareness. But silence does not mean you never speak. Silence is not the end of expression. It is the purification of expression. First you become still. Then you speak only if speech is needed. First you return to the body. Then you choose words that do not betray your dignity. Sometimes the strongest response is no response. Sometimes it is one sentence, spoken slowly, without heat. I hear you. That is not acceptable. We can speak when this is calmer. I will not continue this conversation in this tone. These words do not need anger to become strong. In fact, anger often weakens them. A boundary spoken from chaos invites more chaos. A boundary spoken from stillness has weight. It lands because it is not begging, it is not attacking, it is not performing, it is simply true. This is the art of inner control. You do not silence yourself because others are powerful. You become silent because your energy is sacred. You do not withhold words because you are small. You withhold them because not every moment deserves your life force. Every reaction spends something. Every argument spends something. Every attempt to prove yourself to the unready spends something. And a disciplined person learns to ask, is this worth my energy? Will this sentence serve clarity? Or will it only feed fire? Will this response protect truth or only protect pride? When you live this way, silence becomes a weapon without violence. It cuts through the need to be seen. It cuts through the addiction to winning. It cuts through the habit of handing your inner state to anyone with a careless mouth. The world will call you weak when it cannot control you. Let it. The world will confuse your restraint with fear. Let it. A mountain does not explain its stillness to the wind. It simply remains, and when you can remain silent without shrinking, when you can stay still without hardening, when you can choose words only after the storm inside you has passed, then your silence is no longer empty. It is full of training. It is full of power. It is the sound of a person who has learned to command themselves. Silence becomes powerful when the insult is small. But the real training begins when the wound is deep. It is one thing to stay calm when a stranger disrespects you. It is another thing to stay rooted when someone you trusted becomes the source of your pain. Betrayal has a different weight. It does not only touch your pride, it touches your memory. It touches the place where you once offered loyalty. It touches the part of you that believed another person was safe. When betrayal happens, something inside you wants to harden. The heart says, never again. The mind says, make them feel what they made you feel. The body fills with heat, not only anger, but grief, confusion, humiliation, and disbelief. You do not just feel attacked, you feel foolish for trusting, and this is where pain becomes dangerous. Not because pain is wrong, pain is honest. Pain tells you that something mattered. Pain tells you that a bond was broken. Pain tells you that a boundary was crossed. But if pain is not trained, it begins to look for revenge. It begins to search for a body to punish. It begins to whisper that cruelty will restore balance. It tells you that if you become colder, sharper, harder, and more ruthless, then no one will ever hurt you like this again. But listen carefully. This is the moment where the wound tries to become your teacher. And not every teacher should be followed. A wound can show you where you were open, but it cannot show you how to live. A wound can warn you, but it cannot be allowed to lead you. If you let betrayal become your master, it will slowly shape you into the very energy that hurt you. You will call it protection, but it will be armor made from bitterness. You will call it strength, but it will be fear standing upright. You will call it wisdom, but it will be the death of trust disguised as maturity. This is why the deepest discipline is not only to survive betrayal. The deepest discipline is to survive betrayal without becoming false. You may need distance. You may need silence. You may need to close a door. You may need to remove someone from the inner circle of your life. None of this is weakness. None of this is hatred. A clear boundary is not revenge. A quiet departure is not cruelty. Protecting your peace does not require poisoning your heart. The trained person understands that forgiveness and access are not the same. You can release the fire without reopening the gate. You can stop carrying the hatred without inviting the same hand to strike again. You can wish to be free from bitterness while still choosing not to return to what broke your trust. This is the middle path of strength, not revenge, and not blind softness, not cruelty, and not self-abandonment. Betrayal asks you to become unconscious. It asks you to react from the wound. It asks you to make your future smaller because your past was painful. But awareness asks something higher. It asks you to feel the pain fully without letting pain become your identity. It asks you to learn the lesson without worshiping the scar. It asks you to become more discerning, not more dead, more awake, not more afraid, more rooted, not more closed. When someone betrays you, they reveal something about themselves, but your response reveals something about your training. Can you hurt without becoming hateful? Can you remember without becoming imprisoned? Can you walk away without needing to destroy? Can you let the heart break open and still choose not to turn it into a weapon? This is not easy. This is why it is training. Anyone can become bitter after betrayal. Bitterness requires no discipline. Revenge requires no awakening. Closing the heart forever requires no wisdom. The rare path is to stay human after being hurt, to let the pain teach you boundaries, not cruelty, to let it teach you discernment, not suspicion of everything, to let it teach you depth, not darkness. There will be moments when you want to strike back. There will be nights when the memory returns. There will be times when the mind rehearses what you should have said, what you should have done, how you could make them regret it. In those moments, return to the breath. Place your attention in the body. Feel the fire without feeding it. Say inwardly, I will not let this pain choose my character. I will not become the shape of what wounded me. I will learn. I will step back. I will protect my life. But I will not hand my soul to bitterness. This is how betrayal becomes a doorway instead of a prison. It teaches you that strength is not the ability to hurt back. Strength is the ability to remain clean in a world that gives you reasons to become contaminated. And when you can leave what betrayed you without becoming what betrayed you, you have won a battle deeper than revenge. When you refuse to let pain turn you into what hurt you, the next lesson becomes very important. Calm does not mean you allow everything. Peace does not mean you become available for disrespect. Stillness does not mean you stand there while another person keeps crossing the line. Many people misunderstand inner discipline because they think a calm person must always be soft, always forgiving, always silent, always easy to reach. But that is not peace. That is self-abandonment wearing a spiritual mask. True calm has a spine. True peace has a boundary. True awareness knows when to open the hand and when to close the gate. If someone insults you once, you can breathe and observe. If someone keeps insulting you, you can step back and speak clearly. If someone betrays you, you can choose not to hate them. But you do not have to hand them the same access to your life. This is where many people lose balance. They think there are only two choices: explode or accept, attack or endure, become aggressive or become passive. But there is a third way, the way of conscious boundary. A boundary spoken from awareness is very different from a boundary shouted from anger. Anger says, "You hurt me, so now I will hurt you." Awareness says, "This is not aligned, and I will not continue here." Anger wants punishment. Awareness wants clarity. Anger tries to control the other person. Awareness takes responsibility for your own gate. When you set a boundary from calm, you are not asking permission to protect your peace. You are not begging to be understood. You are not performing strength for the room. You are simply telling the truth with your whole body. Your breath is steady. Your voice is low. Your eyes do not run. Your words are few. That is why they land. You might say, "I hear you, but I will not accept being spoken to this way." You might say, "We can continue this conversation when there is respect." You might say, "I am willing to listen, but not to be attacked." You might say, "This cannot continue." These sentences do not need fire to be strong. They need presence. They need alignment. They need the weight of someone who has already decided not to abandon themselves. Most people talk too much when they set boundaries because they are still trying to be approved. They explain the boundary. They defend the boundary. They decorate the boundary with reasons, history, emotions, and apologies. But a boundary that needs endless explanation often becomes a negotiation. And some people do not need more explanation. They need the consequence of your clarity. This does not mean you become cold. It means your compassion no longer cancels your self-respect. You can understand why someone behaves poorly and still refuse to stand in the path of their poor behavior. You can see their pain and still protect your own nervous system. You can wish them healing and still remove yourself from the room. This is mature strength, not softness without structure, not hardness without heart. A tree that bends in the wind still has roots. Water is gentle, but it can carve stone. The body of a trained person is relaxed, but not collapsed. In the same way, your spirit can be open without being unguarded. You can be kind without being accessible to everyone. You can be forgiving without being foolish. You can be calm without being available for violation. The world will sometimes test this. Some people will respect your silence only when it benefits them. Some people will call your boundary arrogance because they preferred your weakness. Some people will accuse you of changing because you are no longer easy to manipulate. Let them speak. Their discomfort is not proof that your boundary is wrong. Often, it is proof that your boundary is working. Do not return to old patterns just because others are uncomfortable with your growth. The purpose of calm is not to make everyone comfortable. The purpose of calm is to keep you connected to what is true. And sometimes truth requires a closed door. Sometimes truth requires distance. Sometimes truth requires walking away without giving a final speech. Sometimes truth requires saying no with no anger and no apology. This is the discipline to remain soft in the heart, clear in the mind, and firm in the action. If you can do this, you become difficult to misuse. You no longer swing between rage and surrender. You no longer confuse peace with permission. You no longer let guilt open doors that wisdom has closed. The next time someone crosses your line, do not explode and do not disappear. Breathe. Feel your feet. Let the heat settle. Then speak from the place in you that does not need to punish, but will not betray itself. That is real calm, not silence without power, but power without violence. A boundary spoken with calm does not appear in the moment by accident. It is not created suddenly when someone raises their voice, when someone insults you, when someone betrays your trust, when someone presses the exact place in you that still hurts. In the moment of pressure, you do not rise to your imagination. You fall to your training. This is why life must become your dojo before the storm arrives. A fighter does not wait until the day of battle to learn how to stand. A monk does not wait until the mind is burning to learn how to breathe. A person who wants inner mastery cannot wait until anger is already in control to begin practicing awareness. Training must happen before the world tests you. It must happen in quiet rooms, in small frustrations, in ordinary conversations, in traffic, in delays, in hunger, in tiredness, in the moments when no one is watching. Because the way you meet small discomfort is the way you prepare for larger pain. If you cannot remain steady when a message goes unanswered, how will you remain steady when someone disrespects you publicly? If you cannot breathe through a small inconvenience, how will you breathe through betrayal? If every minor irritation steals your center, then the storm does not need to be strong to move you. This is not a judgment. This is a mirror, and a mirror is useful when you are willing to look. Every day gives you repetitions. Every rude voice is a repetition. Every slow line is a repetition. Every criticism is a repetition. Every moment you want to interrupt, defend, explain, correct, and react is a repetition. The untrained person sees these moments as problems. The trained person sees them as practice. This is how ordinary life becomes a dojo. The floor is wherever your feet are. The teacher is whatever disturbs you. The lesson is whatever reveals where you still lose yourself. Begin with the body. Before you can master anger, you must learn to feel it. Notice where it appears. In the jaw, in the chest, in the stomach, in the hands, in the throat. Anger always enters the body before it becomes speech. If you can catch it in the body, you can interrupt it before it becomes karma in the world. Take one breath before answering. Feel your feet. Relax the shoulders. Let the tongue rest. Soften the eyes. These small things are not small. They are the bridge between impulse and command. They tell the nervous system that you are not under the rule of the first fire. Then practice with the situations you already know. You know the person who can provoke you. You know the sentence that makes your pride rise. You know the tone that makes your old wound open. Do not pretend you do not know. Sit quietly and rehearse. See the face. Hear the words. Feel the heat begin. Then practice remaining present. Practice one breath. Practice one pause. Practice one clean sentence. I will not continue in this tone. I hear you, but I need respect. We can speak when this is calm. This is not a script for performance. It is a path for the mind to walk before pressure arrives. When the real moment comes, the body will recognize the path It will say, I have been here before. I know where to place my feet. I know how to breathe. I know how not to give my center away. This is the purpose of training, not to become emotionless, not to become cold, not to become untouchable in a false way. The purpose is to become intimate with your own reactions so they no longer ambush you. You learn your triggers the way a martial artist learns distance. You learn your breath the way a warrior learns balance. You learn silence the way an archer learns stillness before release. And slowly, the world changes. Not because people stop being difficult, but because difficulty stops finding you unprepared. The same insult arrives, but it does not enter as deeply. The same tone appears, but it does not own your mouth. The same disrespect shows up, but your body no longer treats it as a command. You have trained. You have stood in the storm before the storm came. This is how mastery is built. Not through one great moment of discipline, but through thousands of small moments where you choose awareness over habit. Life will not become gentle just because you want peace. People will still misunderstand you. Some will still test you. Some will still speak from their wounds. But now you understand they are not only obstacles, they are bells. Each one rings to show you where training is still needed. So do not wait for perfect conditions. Begin here. Begin with the next breath. Begin with the next irritation. Begin with the next moment your body wants to react. Stand inside it. Breathe inside it. Learn inside it. When life becomes your dojo, nothing is wasted. Every storm becomes practice. Every provocation becomes instruction. Every difficult person becomes a mirror. And the person who keeps training in ordinary moments becomes unshakable in extraordinary ones. When life becomes your dojo, you begin to understand that the real fortress is not built around you. It is built within you. It is not made of stone, walls, titles, money, reputation, or approval. It is made of breath, awareness, discipline, truth, restraint, and the quiet decision to not abandon yourself when the world becomes loud. Most people spend their lives building outer protection. They want more status, so they cannot be disrespected. More success, so they cannot be questioned. More control, so they cannot be hurt. More recognition, so they cannot be ignored. But no amount of outer protection can save a person who has no inner command. A single insult can still steal their peace. A single rejection can still collapse their worth. A single betrayal can still turn their heart into a weapon. This is why the greatest freedom is not the freedom to control everything outside you. It is the freedom to remain rooted when you cannot control what arrives. People will speak, people will judge, people will misunderstand, people will project their wounds onto your name. Some will test you because they are in pain. Some will attack you because they are afraid of their own emptiness. Some will try to pull you into their storm because they do not know how to leave it themselves. If your inner gate is open to every sound, then the world will walk in and rearrange your mind every day. But if you learn to guard the gate, not with fear, not with hardness, but with awareness, then the same world can make noise without becoming your master. This is the inner fortress. It is not emotional numbness. It is not coldness. It is not pretending that nothing hurts. A fortress does not mean there is no life inside. It means there is order inside. It means the gate is not opened by every passing stranger. It means you choose what enters. You choose what stays. You choose what receives your attention, your breath, your words, your energy, that choice is freedom. The one who reacts to everything is not free. They are pulled by every hand. They are moved by every voice. They are written by every opinion. They may look strong because they answer quickly, because they defend loudly, because they fight often. But inside, they are a prisoner of the next trigger. The one who has mastered reaction is different. They can feel anger and still not become anger. They can hear insult and still not become insult. They can face betrayal and still not become bitterness. They can set a boundary without hatred. They can walk away without needing revenge. They can remain kind without becoming available for misuse. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of command. To master others may impress the crowd, but to master yourself changes the direction of your life. Every provocation you faced was not an interruption. It was a bell. Every insult was a bell. Every disrespectful comment was a bell. Every betrayal was a bell. Every difficult person was a bell. It rang to show you where the gate was still unguarded. It rang to show you where the ego still needed applause. It rang to show you where pain still wanted to speak louder than wisdom. If you listened correctly, nothing was wasted. Even the person who tried to break your peace became part of your training. Even the moment that burned you became light for the path. This is how the inner fortress is built. Not in comfort, but in contact, not by avoiding life, but by meeting life without losing the center. And now, when the next insult comes, because it will come, you do not need to become dramatic. You do not need to become defensive. You do not need to prove that you are above it. You simply return to the breath, return to the body, return to truth, return to the quiet, knowing that your worth is not being decided in this moment by someone else's mouth. Let them speak if they must speak. Let the wind move if it must move. A mountain does not become less a mountain because the weather is loud. You can answer if clarity requires it. You can remain silent if silence is wiser. You can leave if the room no longer deserves your presence. But whatever you do, do not hand over the key. Do not give your center to the careless. Do not let a wounded person turn you into another wound walking through the world. This is the final lesson. The world can touch your circumstances, but it does not have to own your state. People can test your patience, but they do not have to govern your spirit. Pain can enter your life, but it does not have to become your identity. The one who masters reaction becomes free, not because nothing can disturb them, but because disturbance no longer decides who they become. And when you can stand in the middle of insult, betrayal, pressure, and noise, while still choosing breath, truth, boundary, and dignity, the fortress holds. The gate remains yours, and the life within you is no longer ruled from the outside.